Okay, let's go ahead and work on a part now. So we're going to go ahead and work on this simple part right here. You can find this part in your help files. I already attached it within the course, so you can go ahead and download it yourself. So what we need to do is we need to cut out this portion, go around this curve, come along here, and come down and around. And then drill these 4 consecutive holes right here. And what we need to do is come up with the code in order to tell the machine to do this. I'm going to go ahead and move this over to the side. You can keep yours open for reference as well. The first thing we need to do is to set up our units and to load the correct machine. Well, we can do that by going to Settings, and then going to Settings. Go ahead and wait a second for it to open up. Alright, so we need to make sure we check our units here. Right now we're currently going to be using millimeters for our units. Once you have everything okay with that, you can go ahead and select OK. Then we're going to go back to Settings again, and we're going to go to Inventory Browser. Then what we need to check is to make sure that we're working on My Milling Tools. And we're going to go set our tools. And right now I currently have the 2 that we're going to create already open. Right now you should see 0 here. And we're also going to go ahead and set the materials as well, but not in this area here. It's the mill workpieces we're going to be working on. So the first thing we need to do first is let's set up a part. You can go ahead and click the add, and we're going to create our new tool. You can go ahead and call this sample mill. And then the information we're going to put in here is going to be the diameter. We'll go ahead and let's pull that out since I couldn't really see it too well. You pop that right back open. Okay, so we need the diameter of this mill to be 10 millimeters, and we can find that within our information in this little left area here, 10 millimeters. So we can go ahead and adjust that to 10 millimeters. Type in 10, and then we're going to give this a length of 50. And once you're done here, you'll go ahead and see a preview. You can go ahead and accept that and hit OK. For now, I'm going to go ahead and cancel that because I already have one created here. The next one we need to do is we need to create a drill. So let me go ahead and open this up again. So again, we need to drill these portions here, and these again are going to be 10 millimeters. So we're going to go ahead and go to Add. We're going to go to Pointed. We're going to go ahead and go to Diameter. We're going to make that 10. The length will be 50. And the tip angle we are going to put to 80. Remember, we need to name this. So you can go ahead and call this Sample Drill. And then hit OK. For now, I'm going to hit Cancel because, again, I've already created this. So you should see your first tool. I called mine Sample Flat Mill. We have a diameter of 10 and a length of 50. And remember, these are in millimeters. I'll go ahead and move over one more. And again, a drill diameter, a tip angle, and a tool length. Next, we're going to come over to mill pieces. We'll go ahead and put the size of 100 for X, 100 for Y, and we'll also put 25 for Z. Again, we'll leave everything else the same. We'll go ahead and hit OK once you have all those settings set up. And currently we haven't really seen any changes. That's because we're going to have to come over here to our editor and start working on the code. I'm going to go ahead and delete this G0 that I have set up from the previous video. Now for starters, I like to comment on everything, and it's very useful when you work on very large programs. In G code you may not really want to, but working in other coding languages you kind of learn to comment, so that way other people can read it and also help you out. So the first thing you want to do is go ahead and add a slash, so the code will kind of ignore this. Now first thing we need to do is add part to machine. So for us, we're going to go ahead and hit the $, and you'll see these various codes here we can add, and what we are looking for is we'll go ahead and type add regular part. If you hit space, it goes ahead and auto completes it, and I kind of want to see the syntax on that, so let's bring that back up. I'll go ahead and hit the $, add reg part. It's the first one here. So it says adds a workpiece from the registry. So you can go ahead and read the syntax. We're going to have the first portion here that we put We also have the index. So far we only have the one part, so we're going to put a 1 there. And then we also have the X position, Y position, and the Z position. So once we're okay with that, again, I can hit space and it will auto-complete it for me. Now it's already trying to select the block that we just created once you named it. I'll go ahead and double click on that. I'll go ahead and press space. Now we have to put the X and Y position of where we want to place this. Let's go ahead and put, let me delete here a little bit. We'll go ahead and put 30, comma, space, 30. Go ahead and press enter. And now if you want, you can come over here and press play. And we will see our block added down there. We can go ahead and move this around, zoom in, and there's our piece we're going to be working on. Pretty soon we're going to get this drill, we're going to bring it down in, put some holes, and we're going to create a designer along the outside. So now the next thing we need to do is we need to change this 0 origin point somewhere onto our block. So we have a reference point in our coding. So let's come back over here to the G code. And the way to do that is we can go ahead and hit G. Again, we see all these references. We'll type in G92. And as you can see here, it is a set 0 offset. The G92 is used to reposition the origin point, the 0 point. This will then be used as a reference point in absolute programming mode, G90. So that's exactly what we're looking for. We'll go ahead and we'll set the position of this top point here. We're moving it from here over to here and then up in the Z direction. So we'll go ahead and put X30. Let me go ahead and use the keyboard over here. Y30, and then we'll put Z25. Again, you can go ahead and put caps or lowercase. I should probably put these as capitals. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep everything similar so it's all uniform. And again, I'm gonna go ahead and let's go ahead and comment all of our code so we know what we're doing. So that's going to go ahead and set the 0 point. Again, let's go ahead and push play. And you notice this 0 reference point was moved to the top of that block right there. Let's go ahead and go back to the code. Now the next thing we need to do is set up the tool and change it. So we'll go ahead and we'll comment that. Set tool and change, if I can go ahead and spell that correctly. So in order to change your tool, we'll use a T. And then that will go ahead and select the tool that we want to use. We'll go ahead and hit this T1. Now yours can be a different number than what I have here, but I'm going to go ahead and just double click that to accept it. I'll go ahead and press space and we'll do M and we will pick a 6. Don't worry too much if you don't know what all these codes are doing so far just yet. We're just working through a process, trying to get some codes down, and I have reference material for you to learn some of the codes, and we'll build again some different codes for different patterns we're going to look at, so we'll get more and more comfortable with what it is that we're doing. So this will be a exchange tool. We'll go ahead and accept that. Then what we need to do is we need to move the tool to the location where it's going to start to work at. So we'll go ahead and we'll comment on that. Let's see, I'll go ahead and drag this over a bit so you can see it, and I should have put all that in caps, but we'll keep it for now. Okay, so next thing we need to do is we'll go ahead and type G00. This will be a fast traverse, so reposition to a new location with high speed. We don't actually want to drill into this block with this speed. This is just to get into position as quickly as possible. So we'll go ahead and put G00. And then we're going to put the position where we want to put the drill at. So we're going to put X15, Y15, space Z2. I'll go ahead and hit enter. We'll comment for our next line. And what we need to do is we need to change the motion of tool. And then what it is we have to do is set feed and spindle. Don't worry too much about the feed and the spindle just yet. We'll cover that in a later course. Okay, so what we're going to start with is G1. This will be a linear feed traverse. We're going to take it off the G00, which is the fastest. You don't want to be doing any of your drilling at the quickest speed possible. And then from there, we're going to go ahead and move the Z down by 5. And then we are going to set the feed, which is F250 for now. S will be 2000. And then what we have to do is this M3, we're going to specify the direction that we're going to be spinning. Right now we're going to put clockwise. I'll go ahead and double click to accept that. Let's go ahead and just hit play to see what happens here. As you can see, it's reading the code and it moved in position. So everything's looking okay so far. So next what we're going to do is I'll go ahead and comment again. We're going to move one direction in Y. So we're going to put the new coordinate. We want to move to Y70. I'll go ahead and hit play so we can see this again. And there's our first motion across that block there. Next, what we need to do is I'll go ahead and comment, set to arc motion, which this is actually an interpolated motion, which means it's going to be moving along an X and a Y axis at the same time. This first motion here was only along the Y, so the X position was kind of held fixed. So moving across an arc, you can guess, is going to be moving along the X and Y at the same time. Then what we need to do is specify the end point of the arc and the center of the arc as well. So we can go ahead and comment that like so. Let me drag this out a little bit more so we can see it. So we're going to set the arc motion and specify endpoint and arc center. So how do we do that? First thing we need to do is right here, we need to turn it into an arc motion and take it out of this linear mode. And we can do that by hitting G2. Arc interpolation clockwise. So circular interpolation clockwise. Circle center is by default, etc., etc. As you can see, it kind of arcs over. We have an I and a J. As you can see, this is the syntax. We're going to give it an X, a Y, a Z, an I, J, K. So it just gives you the endpoint and then another X, Y, Z for the center of that actual arc where it's going. I'll go ahead and accept that for now. And then the coordinates we're going to be using are X30, Y85. We're going to have I15, J0. And if you're wondering where I'm getting all these numbers from, I'm looking at this part here. And this is the arc that I'm going ahead and I'm curving across. And I'm just making a center here. And I'm just telling where the endpoint is going to be at. Okay. So now what we need to do is we need to actually, let's just see what this plays out to be first. So you can see what we're doing. So here it comes across, and then it goes across the arc, just like that. So from there, all we need to do is traverse straight across here, straight across down, and then straight back across. So all we need to do is give this an X distance to go across, a Y distance to come down, and then an X distance to kind of go across. So for our comments, we can put now enter the rest of coordinates and set motion back to linear. So we'll go ahead and put G1. We'll do that with the capital G1. I'll double click it to accept it. And then we're going to do X85 will be our next position. And now the rest of them I'm going to put on separate lines. Y15, X15. Because each of these is going to be an individual movement. One movement, one movement, one movement. So it's going to read one block of code at a time, one line of code at a time. So let's go ahead and play this out to make sure everything is looking good so far. Okay, it's moving across. Now it comes down and moves back towards the left. It's looking good so far. So now what we need to do is we need to drill our 4 holes. So in order to do that, we are going to have to move away from the part and then change to drill. So if you remember from up here, this is how we set our tools and we changed it. So we can start with the T. We'll go ahead and we'll pick that second tool there. and then we'll go ahead and hit M6. We'll go ahead and execute the tool change, just like before, T1 M6. Now we're doing a T2 M6. So this is the G code here, and this is referred to as maybe an M code. So let's go ahead and play that out one more time. And then it completes the part, moves away, and it changes the tip. So now let's go ahead and we'll move it to the location where it needs to go to. I'll go ahead and do G0 to give it a speed, because we want to quickly go to that location. X30. Let me put in that again. X30. Y30. And the last one is going to be a Z2, just slightly above our 0 point. So now what we need to do is, once it's hovered over that position, we need to tell it to actually come down and drill, move up, and then go to the next positions. And also, since we're doing a drill, it's moving a lot quicker, we need to add some coolant to make sure it doesn't overheat. So we'll tell it to drill multiple positions. We'll go ahead and multiple positions and add coolants. Okay, so we can do that by doing a G81. And as we hover over it, we get this here. So we're going to drill in, drill up. So Z is a total depth, and R is a start plane. Don't worry too much about all these here, but as you can see, the syntax for the rest of this code is going to be an X, a Y, a Z, and then an R. So let's go ahead and tell it, for starters, the Z is going to drop by 15. We'll give it an R of 1. Don't worry too much about that just yet. And then we'll also add in a few more codes here. We're going to set the speed. Well, not the speed, the direction that it's going to spin. And then we're also going to do M8 to turn that coolant on. So we told it that we're going to drill multiple positions. That's this first portion here. It's going to drill down just like so. And then we're going to add the coolant right there. Now what we need to do is we need to move to new position. So again, I'm going to go ahead and play this out just one more time. You can see this first portion here. We can also go ahead and use this button down here to step by one step at a time and read through the code. So it finishes. Now it's going to move away. It's going to quickly move to position, and it's going to drill one hole. So all we need to do now is specify the new positions relative to this point here. So I'll go ahead and hit Y70, X70, Y30. And then once we're done, we need to end the drill. And we can do that with a G80. And after that, we'll go ahead and use a Z50 and M30 to end the program. I'll go ahead and delete that like so. And now, once our code is completed, let's go ahead and run it one last time to see if we can get our completed part. Now it moves away for the last 4 holes. And there's our part. We can go ahead and move around a bit more. Move around to look at it. And it looks pretty nice. Now this is a good example of some simple code where we can create a pattern and do a drill and add some coolant. You can go ahead and try and experiment with some patterns of your own. I went ahead and gave a little assignment to come up with the Exa sketch, where you can kind of sketch out something on a piece of paper and try and construct some code of just the simple movements of moving around, maybe finding the arcs of the locations, and seeing if you can construct the code for that. I'll be covering various other parts, and again, we'll be looking at various other types of machines. We'll do some milling here and here. We'll look at a router, as well as some other parts that maybe people might recommend to know a little bit more about.